July 26, 2015 marked the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, a landmark piece of legislation signed by President George H.W. Bush. The bill, sponsored by Senator Tom Harkin, was the most important piece of legislation impacting one-fifth of the population who are people with disabilities. Disabled people form the nation's largest minority, and before the ADA became law, the notion that disabled people had civil rights was not universally accepted. Although today we take elevators and ramps for granted, it was a mere 25 years ago that the many aspects of accessibility and equal rights for disabled Americans was enshrined. Joining me today is Lennard Davis. He is the author of the new book, Enabling Acts, The Hidden Story of How the Americans with Disabilities Act gave the largest U.S. minority its rights. Welcome to Uprising, Lennard.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us. Well, I was very moved by the experience that you relate in the very opening of your book about your parents. Both your parents were deaf, and before the ADA, their lives were extremely isolating. Can you share a little bit of what personally motivated you to write this book?
Yeah, I was approached by Beacon Press to write the book to come out on the 25th anniversary of the Act. But personally, as a child growing up in a poor deaf family and an immigrant family, I was very aware of the injustices that were done to my parents. And I didn't put it in the book, but as a child, when we would ride on the subway in New York, I would stare at all of the people who were staring at my parents because they were using sign language. I would go from one end of the car to the other and stare them down, and then begin all over again, because I felt that my parents didn't really have their full civil rights. Life was difficult for them, and the only place that they were truly comfortable and accepted was within the deaf community.